I'm Liz.
I'm Robby. Welcome back to our channel, Bookworm Couple. Today we are going to be talking about the 8th book in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan, The Path of Daggers.
Can't believe I made it here.
Yeah, you are over halfway done.
Wow, good job, Liz.
Oh, incredible work.
Wow, thank you.
How'd you like it?
Overall, I would say my summary of this book is a lot happens and nothing happens.
Yes, I think that most people would agree with you.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I was really excited to start this book. I started it really early, and then unfortunately lost the old audiobook to the library because it had to be returned, and then I really struggled getting back into it because I've been listening to these books primarily. I find it a little bit easier for me to pay attention, which seems weird. This one I struggled to pay attention to in general. I thought the beginning was very exciting, and there were a lot of things that excitingly happened at the end. I think the middle was a lot, very dense. I didn't dislike it, especially finishing the book. I think in the middle of the book I was like, I can't read this book anymore. And then at the end I was like, I love my friends.
Yeah.
And so I think, while the end wasn't incredibly epic, it was kind of back to the character dynamics that I fell in love with and made me excited for the next book. So overall, interesting experience with this book 8. I understand the slogginess.
Sure.
I think I would kind of explain it in the fact that Robert Jordan is an over-explainer. In, like, you know how you meet someone, me, I am this way, tells you a story and you get every single little tiny detail? I think that's very much how, that's something that I've noticed in Robert Jordan's writing in general, but it hasn't been as obvious to me how much kind of unnecessary detail there is until this book. There were scenes where it would be like, so-and-so walked into the room, there were 2 people behind him, they were from this culture that did this thing, and they looked like sad, and then they had fish, and there was a writing utensil on his desk, and da-da-da. I'm obviously not doing this well, but it was like every tiny detail that I would just be like, checking out. I do also think Robert Jordan loves a lengthy description.
Yes.
If we're focusing on one thing, I don't mind that as much. Because I like to create a vision of what I'm seeing. Whereas when it's like kind of observations of people and it skips from person to person to room to person to thing to that person's inner monologue to this, that's where I struggle. So I felt like that was a lot of this book, and I was like, oh, okay. I think I understand where the slog kind of gets its name, but I don't hate it. I don't necessarily dislike it. I have trouble focusing because of the way that this book was written in the depths of the details in every single scene, and I think it's easy to get lost in that and for it to feel very slow. And also because we have those depths of details in every scene, we're getting such intimate descriptions of what's happening, it kind of does feel like things move very slow because we're almost moving more in real time with this book than we are with a lot of other books that I read. So I understand. Didn't hate it.
Great. Didn't hate it. High praise.
Didn't hate it. I mean, I liked it, but I'm more saying of like the slog, the I know that this is the middle of the series, or I guess like latter half of the series, maybe.
Technically the latter half.
Yeah, wow. Is kind of determined to be the slog, and I talked about it in the last book where I was like, oh, I kind of like this. I understand why people wouldn't like it because they want a fast-moving thing, but I like if we are in intimate moments with characters and getting all of those minute details. I think my issue with this book is we got a lot of intimate moments with characters, all of the characters, that I don't know very well or remember, and so it's a struggle to get through it. But overall, I enjoyed it.
Okay, well, I guess we need to go forward with some more specifics. So spoilers going forward. This is the 8th book in the Wheel of Time. I feel like we don't need to do the spoiler bit anymore. I can't imagine people are watching this who have not actually read these books.
I doubt it.
If you have not, read them.
Or just for funsies? Yeah, I mean, read them.
Read them.
Listen to them. Love the audiobooks. Period.
End of story. Anyway, spoilers going forward.
Sorry.
Go in, babe.
Typical of Wheel of Time books, I'm often like, who? But I think I'm probably going to go through the characters because we very much have...
Don't worry about it.
Okay. We very much have everyone grouped off in little side quests, and so I think it's probably going to be the easiest way for me to. But classic Wheel of Time book starts off with kind of like meddlingness. The prologue, or maybe it's not the prologue. yeah, I guess prologue usually, is kind of where I've said before is like a lot of our villains. That's like our villain's POV moment is the very beginning of the book.
It's great.
Which this time I actually thought was very interesting because we got in Varen's head for the first time. I was not expecting her to be necessarily all good, because I could definitely tell from past books she's very manipulative. Mm-hmm. But this book starts out with us realizing that she has figured out how to control people's minds.
Yes.
I guess, for lack of a better term, control people's minds, control their thoughts. I was like, oh, this is twisted, and I like it. But I love a character like Varen who is much more dynamic than just like a straight up villain. You know, she's like, she's got what she thinks is the right thing. She's got a purpose, and she's like, I have this power, gotta do what I gotta do. Doesn't mean that it's right, but I'm like, wow, I'm intrigued by this journey. I'm very intrigued. I already liked this prologue better because I think it was with people that I knew.
Yeah, sure. You're like, I know who this is.
Because most of the time in the prologues, I'm like, huh?
Who?
What? Am I supposed to know these people? Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. I don't know. I'm reading this in a very Liz fashion. So we start out with my girls. We've got Aviendha, Nynaeve, and Elaine all together with the Bowl of the Winds. And this is a very intriguing... This book kind of does start out with a literal bang.
It does.
Which was very exciting. I think similarly to many other times I read Robert Jordan's description of action scenes, I get a little bit lost, and I'm not really sure why that is. I think because he throws you right into it. There's not a lot of description. It's like literally bam, ba-bam. But it was very interesting them figuring out the Bowl of the Winds and the sea folk, women with them, kind of tricking them. I thought this was a very interesting beginning with Aviendha just kind of rolling out that she knew how to undo weaves, and all of the women with her, I don't know if they're with any wise women, but Aes Sedai are like, you can't do that, and she like basically blows everything up. She's like, yes, I can.
Yes, that wasn't entirely on purpose, I don't think.
No, absolutely not on purpose, but I love that she's very much, because the way I read the scene was also like, people are arguing, and in the background, Aviendha's just like trying really hard to do it, and then it just like happens, which I also think is very cool. I love my girl Aviendha. I love Aviendha. I love getting reveals that she's more powerful than she thinks. I love that all of the girlies that we have focused on are more powerful than any of the people that have ever come before.
Of course, yes, all of them.
Side note, I love that Lan and Nynaeve are kind of getting this like unpronounced honeymoon phase. There's just like little nods to being like, they snuck away together and I hope she's getting it. There's like multiple times where Elaine's like, hope she's getting it. Like, which I love. And I love the constantly growing dynamic between Aviendha and Elaine. They're full besties, first sisters, lovey-dovey, huggy-hug, hug-hug vibes. And this scene I got a little bit, the beginning of this I got a little bit lost in, of the like, oh, we're going and there's Shantan and we're traveling and we're things are blowing up. And I was like, wait, what? But I think that generally gives you an idea of what happens.
Oh yeah.
Pretty much. And again, I thought this was a very exciting scene, or I thought this was a very exciting way to begin the book. And things definitely slow down from here.
Oh, yes.
Very, very slow. And I think that was kind of my surprise in the book. I was like, whoa, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. My girls are doing stuff. They're blowing up crap. And then it was like...
And Shantan like, oh no, they have a new weapon.
Yeah. Like, they have bombs.
I mean, I was like, yes.
Accidentally did that. But sure, you're so right. Watch out. I think it's a cool... I hate to say, like, I'm glad the Shantan are back because they suck. But I think they're very terrifying villains.
Yeah, they're great.
And so I think the dynamic of having them in the stories makes it very scary. And the stakes are very high with them. And especially seeing our girls of being like, because the girls bond with Egwene after having been captured by them, the girls bond is so strong, and their friend Egwene was captured by the Shantan. They're not messing around. Like, you see that with these, they're trying to explain to everyone else that they're with. They're like, no, we can't, we're not messing around with Shantan, we're out, we gotta go, bye. So, and that's literally what they do. They're like, gotta go, bye. Like, mic drop, bomb drop situation. I do think that's interesting setup for the future of our girlies and kind of the battleship of the potential of women who wield the power. and what the coming fights could be. Even though I know they're not supposed to ever attack another person. But our girls are very watered down Aes Sedai. They're very much like, they're like, yeah, the rules.
Yeah, we don't need the
We never swore on the oath rod, so I can lie to you.
Sucks to suck.
Sucks to suck. But yeah, I love their whole dynamic. And obviously later on in the book, which I guess we can cover, I don't really know how to...
Just do characters.
But then we would go to them at the end of the book, which we don't really see. We don't really see these girlies a whole lot throughout the book beyond the beginning, and we get little bits and pieces. But then we're at the end where there's a murder, and one of their murder, and they find out that there is a Black Aja amongst them, which kind of, I'm like, at this point,
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere, and it's like, and dark friends are just. I've gotten to the point in these books where I'm like, oh, they're a dark friend. Okay, surprise. Because I feel like it's no longer...
Shocking.
Yeah, it's no longer like, whoa, reveal. Unless I were to find out that, like, Elaine was a dark friend, then I'd be like, what are you doing? What? But it's at the point now where there's so many side characters, and so many of them are dark friends. And I'm kind of like, okay. But obviously finding out that there is a Black Aja amongst these women is... very scary. Mm-hmm. Elaine's coming in, going back to take her throne. Oh yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, she's like, "This is mine now."
It's her pages in which she goes up to it. It's really kind of really beautifully written. I think where she's like afraid of it, but also feels so at home.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to take the throne, but is also wants to take the throne. Mourning her mother for the first time, like really being there, but also having patience and watching her kind of remember the traditions of her people and how they need to accept her as a queen and whatever. Also, she's like, don't worry, I'm gonna marry Rand and make him my warder. Everyone just relax about the dragon. I know you're all freaked out about the dragon. I got that covered. So there you go. Don't worry, I got it. But I thought that, seeing that ending was very satisfying. I was like, oh, finally. It's like that long trek that they've been making. And I hope the best for her. I do love Elaine. I love all the girls. So... anyway, we don't really get a lot of Nynaeve or barely Aviendha in this book, too. Just like little bits and pieces.
No, we don't know who else we don't get a lot of. Matt.
No Matt.
My favorite
Zero
character.
Matt. I know.
Matt.
It's
very sad.
It is sad, but he's mentioned obviously, but no Matty Matt.
No Matt.
We do, however, get Perrin. And
so much Perrin.
There's not too much. He's similar to the girlies in which we're like with him in the beginning, and then all of a sudden the like second to last chapter, I'm like, oh yeah, what have you been doing? I forgot. And
I do think Messima is scary. I think that the Prophet of the Dragon, that whole cult is scary.
I was very glad that we're like handling that. Like we're not just being like, no, like whatever.
He's
there's
doing
this
stuff
prophet.
In Rand's name.
Yeah, and well, that's kind of how it was. I feel like dealt with in the past book, where it's like, yeah, he's for the dragon. And then the more we get of him, like, this is an insane person, and he's trying to lead a like murdery cult, and we can't be doing that. So I'm glad we're like handling that, or at least attempting to handle that.
And they sent their best guy, Perrin.
Our fierce Perrin. But side note, I believe my note was, can I say shit? My note was, oh shit, Elias is back.
Yeah.
Pumped for Elias. And I also love that Elias's dynamic with Perrin is like, I don't think you're doing this girl thing correct. He's literally like,
This is bad.
I don't think you have it. I do think it's interesting that he kind of immediately understands Fail and is like, she is a fire, she needs a fire back, stop coddling her. And later on in the book, Fail is like, finally, he's like fighting with me. And I'm like, you're a mess. But like, at least we've kind of got the dynamic is less of like, darn it, Perrin, and more of like, ooh, this is kind of fun for me, which, whatever. But it's a little bit better than you constantly whining and prodding him and trying to get him to make you jealous and all of the nonsense.
Jesus Christ.
The crashies. She does actually, at Fail... Also, Fael's Secret Society. What? What is happening? Her, like, little Fael's Falcons. Like, I need them to have, like, a little t-shirt. I was reading this, like, the very first scene when she's, like, snuck away when Perrin was sleeping, and then her people were there. What does she call them? I don't even remember. Oh, Falcon's Talon? I don't know, something like that. There's something, I was very much like, this manipulative little chick thinks she is the ruler of them all.
Yep.
eye roll. I will say I had a little bit of Fayo's growing up maturing moment later on in the book when she is also, we're in her head, we're in her point of view, and she's kind of been like, finally Perrin is like fighting back with me. I want someone who's strong and gives it right back to me, but not too much. And then she also talks about, because she gets abducted by the Shanshan. Or no, not Shanshan.
Not the Shanshan, the
Aiel. The Shido. So sorry. The Shido. I knew who it was in my head and I said the wrong name. Which is very scary. Also, why are naked? Why do they all have to be nude? You guys.
It's better that way.
It is not. Relax. They're just stupid. Anyways, interesting her, like, seeing in her POV that she has a bit of respect for Berlain. Berlain?
I don't know how to say it.
Berlain, I think.
You would know better than me. You listen to the
I know, you're so right, and now I'm second guessing myself. But it is interesting hearing in her head, because before, in previous books, it was just this like nasty, jealousy little thing. Perrin couldn't even be in 4 rooms away from her without Fayo being like, you are looking at her and flirting with her, meh. And obviously, that's very much Perrin's dynamic right now, is like the Falcon and the Falcon, or whatever Min told him. There was between a Falcon and a something. Berlain is the other. It doesn't matter. This is a long tangent. Mainly, it was interesting in Fail's head for her to be like, yeah, this stupid girl, but she's can do what I need her to do. And, like, there's a bit of respect for her, which I was like, it was a little bit refreshing in their normal dynamic, which I found very frustrating. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with those little buddies. And I'm glad that Perrin and Elias are together. I think Elias can continue to teach Perrin a lot, not only in the ways of the wolves, but
just in life.
Apparently in life. Like, yeah. Elias is a cool dude. It's very funny, the conversations he has with Perrin, and it's kind of written that he's kind of like, I don't know if I should say this, but I think you're screwing it up, dude. Like, I don't know more about women than you, but I think you do, probably. Yeah, you probably do. And I'm glad that they're back together. I'm sure there's gonna be a my wife moment at some point when he finds out she's been taken, which is fair. We must have it. Yeah, let's talk about my girl Egwene, our Amerlin seed, our mother. Love her so much. I love that Egwene has out-manipulated the women who attempted to manipulate her when they made her Aes Sedai.
Probably my favorite part of this book is when she, it tricks them into declaring war on
it's
on
brilliant.
The tower. Yeah,
and she's like so nervous about it, and it's very funny watching these women begrudgingly do what she says.
Oh yeah.
And Egwene, but then we keep the humanness of Egwene, where she's had this brilliant manipulation. And yet still in her head, when she's saying, we will go to war and against Elida. But you're still in her head being like, is it going to work? I think it's going to work. And then she's like, no. They're like, well, we'll talk about this later. And she was like, actually, can you tell them what you have to do when the Amerlin seed says it's war? Yeah, cool. You can't talk about anything later. We got to talk about it right now. And I say we do it and everything else gets tabled. So, which is, I'm actually very intrigued to see how that all goes down, because Elida, our little manipulative girly pop, is also being manipulated by the Black Aja.
Yeah, she's not actually Black Aja.
She's not, and I'm so good, because I said that before, and I was like, well, she's not Black Aja, and I was like, wait, did I miss that? Is she Black Aja? And then in this book, we get the reveal that she's being controlled by the Black Aja, which I always find a very interesting dynamic when we have a very strong kind of villainous character who seems to have a lot of power and purpose, and then watching them kind of be belittled by whomever that they answer to.
Yeah.
Because her keeper is Black Aja, keeper of the...
Yes, no. I don't remember her name either.
I'm terrible at the titles, obviously. But that was a kind of interesting reveal. Made a lot of sense. And it's going to be very interesting because Elida, as kind of frustrating and annoying as she is, because she's so hyper-focused on what she thinks is correct and just having control of Rand, and that's really all she can think about. I do think she's a very strong character, and I would be sad and I don't believe that we will see her go down without a fight, because I think she is also the type of strong where she's a little twisted in the ways of righteousness and like how to do things, that I think she kind of has a crazed mentality, which I think also can bring about some intense power because of the absolute hyper-focus of that mentality, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see how that all goes down. I feel like all the things I'm talking about are like, this is transitioned into the next book.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's kind of the book.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, I do think I forgot about in Perrin's little dynamic that they, unbeknownst to them, pick up more gays.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Which is kind of
great. And she's like, Perrin, I don't remember exactly what like the scene is, but I do remember her being like, wait, Perrin's like betraying Andor or something, because Two Rivers is technically part of Andor.
Yes.
And so like that's kind of been a running joke, I feel like, through the series.
Yeah,
where people
like,
are
who?
Hey, wait,
the
Two
Queen
Rivers
to me?
Two Rivers is a part of Andor. And they're like, yeah, okay. And now it's funny to see that make its way all the way to Morghese, and her being like, what?
Well, and I also like that it's written as Morghese being a kind of bad actor in general, too, because she's acting as, like, essentially a peasant.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, can you go wash these things? And she's like, I can, sir. Like it just is written as her being a very awkward bad actor. And then, of course, she's with Linny, who, I love it. Linny is like, get it together.
Yeah, what are you doing?
She's like, ma'am, you're
normal.
not the queen. Linny, our queen. More Linny, the sassiest of sass. I'm surprised she's not your favorite character, because I feel like
I love Linny. She's
she
great.
is your sense of humor.
Oh, yeah, she's very funny.
And the way that she's like, her like lessons to everyone are just like these like very sassy kind of proverbs, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that dynamic. Oh, we run into Logain at some point as well. He's kind of like leading a band of people. That little plot got lost to me. That was near the end of the book, and it was like a couple pages, and I was like, what? Which is cool. I kind of like Logain. I do find it interesting. I was thinking about this because at the end of the book with Mazrin Taim, where he was like declared a false dragon and has like just, fixed the madness, I find the dynamic of these men that are flipping the kind of stereotype on its head and proving that what everyone has said is not necessarily true very interesting. And so
what do you mean, like that they'll go mad?
Yeah, I'm finding, and not
while
even
also reading a book about Rand struggling with exactly that.
Just, it's just him and his little buddy in his head.
Him and Lews Therin.
Lews Therin, who I have determined is a murder-hungry, horny old man.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, every time Lews Therin is in his brain, and I also get a bit of a sad boy as well, it's one of three things. It's him being like, kill them now! Anyone that uses power, any, like, man in him, anyone that is, like, slightly, potentially in the way of Rand being more powerful than him, aka also Lews Therin, because he's in his head, he's like, you must kill them. Or he's like, look at those tits. Like, anytime Rand sees a woman, it'll, like, come up in his head where he'll be like, I felt a purr from Lews Therin. I'm like, keep it in your pants, Lews! Get it together! Or something happens with Rand's thinking about some woman in his life that he's sad about, and Lews Therin is like, Ilyana! Just dramatic buddy. Which, now that we're here, let's talk about Boyle Rand, our little buddy. Rand, this book was very funny for me with the journey with Rand, because I have come to love Rand. I do feel for Rand. I think Rand is attempting to carry the world on his shoulders, never having wanted that, obviously, from the very beginning. He's like, who, me? Not me. And I think he's doing a great job. As well as he can.
Sure.
As well as he
can
can for being also, like, what, 20-year-old?
Yeah, I don't remember how old they are. I think they're in their, like, late teens, early 20s.
Yeah. And who didn't ever want this and is now, like, and knows nothing about the power until he, began to teach himself.
And now he tells him he's going to cleanse the power.
He's going to cleanse the power. I don't know. I worry, I often worry for our boy Rand. Because I think Rand, period, Rand sans Lews Therin, has a pretty decent head on his shoulders. Rand, now that he has been through a lot and realized that he has responsibility because of the title that he has and the power that he's just been born with, has kind of started to understand power dynamics and war and how he can use this power and how he should use this power or how he thinks he should use this power. So at times I often admire the choices that he's making because it's not easy. But then every once in a while, that like teenage Rand, angsty Rand comes out.
Oh, yeah.
And the second, don't ever tell him not to do something, because he will immediately do it. Immediately. We've discovered this with Balefire. He's been told multiple times. Literally, anytime anyone mentions...
Balefire.
Literally, anytime anyone mentions, like, probably don't use Balefire, he's like, what, this? Pew! Like, bro, don't use Balefire. And there's this big battle scene in this book where, you know, he's with his Ashaman and all these soldiers and people, and they come upon the Shan-Chan, and Rand cannot get over the fact he's like, I did this once. I got rid of them, like, out, get what's happening. Why are we here? Why are you still here? Like, why are you back? Blah. And because he's had this victory, he also has this pompousness about his ability to deal with the Shan-Chan. He's like, I did this once. I got it, guys. Like, I got it. I can do it. And meanwhile, everyone around him, his Visor-like characters are like, we gotta be smart about this. This is war, dude. Like, I know you're really powerful, but also there's, you know, there's some ways we can deal about this. There's some strategies we can use. And he's like, no, look at my cool sword. Busts out his sword and then kills a bunch of his own people, literally throwing a fit. Like, literally throwing a fit about the fact that
power's driving him mad. And
I don't think it's a power. I think that's a dynamic metaphor that I would argue of the power that he can use, but also the weight that he's been given. I personally see that as the thing that is driving him mad beyond what's happening, more so than what's happening in his head.
Oh.
I kind of feel like the madness is a bit made up in the way that it's more...
No.
But you don't think so?
No, not at all.
Really?
Well, I mean, he spends so much time... It doesn't spend time in this book... Well, yes, talking to Luz Theron, which is one thing. But also, like, when he's accessing the power, he's having trouble... Like, isn't he... What is it that's starting to happen to him? He's, like, getting nauseous? Or he's, like...
Well, there was a scene in this book that I think I told you I had to read it again and still got very confused, where it was, like, all of a sudden, Rand was, like, doing stuff. There was like, a smaller battle before the, like, he blew up everyone with thunder and lightning. And all of a sudden he's like, I'm dead. And I was like, what are you dead? You're dead. You're dying. Like, what's happening? But then as I actually, like, Googled a little bit because I wanted to give myself a summary of this book, making sure that I remembered everything. And the idea is that the Saidin has been, because it's been tampered with by the Dark One, it's also kind of affecting the users of it as well.
Yeah, that's what the madness is.
That's fair, but I don't think that... I feel like, and I understand that, but that seems more of a, like kind of a physical manifestation rather than, like, a mental madness, at least. But maybe I'm just the way I'm interpreting it. Or maybe I just, like, want to disbelieve whatever's like, yeah, no, these men are going to go mad. I'm like, how do you actually know?
Well, because it happened, like, Luz Theron killed everyone.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, the way I interpret...
But do you think Luz Theron killed everyone?
He used Kalendor, and the amount of power he's using makes him go mad, and that's part of why he kills... He can't control it until part of he kills all of his own people, as well as...
I guess I wouldn't define that as necessarily madness. I mean,
it takes control of him and essentially fair. Doesn't allow him to make rational
conscious
decisions.
Choices.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think a lot of anytime Rand has showed behaviors that were a bit mad, I think it, to me, kind of all revolved around his anxiety about the weight on his shoulders.
Well, I think that part of it also is that the madness is corrupting all aspects of his life, regardless of whether or not he's currently using the power. And so, like, a lot of times when he's, you know, extremely aggressive or something, part of why sometimes it's hard to be in his head is because the taint is affecting him.
Okay. I guess I wouldn't define that as madness. Because I think it seems like the user has more control. But
it's a slow descent. It's not an immediate...
slow descent. Okay, I understand that then. I think I just wouldn't...
So the longer... Like, it's not... So that's why, you know, in the beginning, touching the power, you're not going to go mad immediately. It's going to be something that happens over a period of time.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I do think one of the things I noticed in this book, the interesting dynamic between... Or the interesting comparison to how men touch Saidin and how women touch Saidar, and how it is such a feminine and masculine stereotype. Like the fact that they teach the Aes Sedai, like, picture a flower, very feminine. It's very slow, it's very soft, very, very literal feminine energy. And then every time Rand discusses it, he's like, it was so painful, and the pain, and it kept bringing the pain, and you just gotta work through the pain. Yeah. It just seems like a very... It's the first time I really was like, oh, this is like a full stereotype.
Oh, yeah.
Which I find interesting. I also think interesting having it being written by a man as well. I'm like, is this how you guys think it has to be? Like, you can
is that not how it is?
You can use the flower too. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that Saidin is, Saidin's the male, right?
Yes.
It's definitely supposed to be more. Even the women at times will talk about if they kind of sense it, it feels a little more prickly.
Yes.
So I think that's a very interesting gender stereotype.
Yeah.
Now that I kind of had noticed it, not in necessarily a bad way, but specifically in this book, because there's a few chapters where, and I do think Rand is also dealing with the taint of Saidin now, as now things have been kind of screwed around with the Dark One, and we're messing with the pull of the winds, and so now the weather is flipping from super hot to snow, and Rand can very much feel that in his access to the power, and I find that very interesting. But I just thought that the like complete split in the stereotype of the power was very funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Rand was betrayed.
Oh yeah, people keep trying to kill Rand. No wonder he's in a bad mood.
Yeah, fair. So I'm kind of, Rand's got 3 ladies who all continuously are like, love these girls maybe more than I love Rand. They're like, Elaine's like, I love Min maybe more than I love Rand. Aviendha and Elaine obviously obsessed with each other. Min even says, like, I love Elaine more than myself, which I love. I love this dynamic, that it's not a competitive dynamic. It's very refreshing. Really love Rand and Min's relationship. I think they have the most solid, which seems terrible kind of to say because they have such trauma bonding together.
Yes.
But I think that they are and maybe this is because we've spent the most time with them kind of together as a couple-ish, that they have like the most solid foundation, I think, as a couple, and also a lot of sexual tension. I'm very into the Min and Rand sexy dynamic. I love it. Give it to me. Give me a sex scene, Robert Jordan. Let's go. I know it's never gonna happen, but whatever. I think I'm very intrigued to I'm assuming at some point he's gonna have some time with our girl Aviendha and with Elaine. I think Elaine's probably gonna be here pretty quick. I'd be interested to see kind of how my feelings change, because there was a part of me that feels like he's going to end up with one person, and I feel like this is how I feel. Because I feel like I've given you like who I think he's going to end up with before.
Yes.
I don't know that I know who he's going to end up with, but as of this book, I like him and Min as a relationship the most. I think it's the most stable. I think him and Aviendha make a lot of sense in that... Well, I don't know that that's true. I think him and Elaine make a lot of sense.
Yes.
But him and Elaine are a very particular type of couple now at this point. They're the literal power couple.
They're a little power, yes.
And while I like that dynamic, I don't necessarily foresee that happening. But also maybe that's the most obvious because it would do well for the both of them as far as power to... But he is not going to allow her to make him his warder. No. You're like, I know what happens.
I do know what happens, obviously.
I think that's the most obvious and realistic relationship for him, like politically.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I don't think it's the relationship that makes the most sense.
I think it's Min?
I think, like, social dynamics-wise, between the two of them and their actual relationship, I think they have the closest relationship. And also apparently a great rambunctious sex life.
Great.
Which I love for them. Aviendha is fire. And I think him and Aviendha are both kind of that crux to teach each other something. Yeah, so the person... I would like him to end up with Min, which I originally had said Aviendha, but I like their dynamic a lot.
Yeah.
I believe in their relationship. I believe that they have a good friendship. And... yeah, and I also think, too, like, Elaine and him, we've got, like, 2 scenes of them making out. You know what I mean? Like, they hung out for, like, 2 weeks and were making out for a while.
Yeah, she keeps talking about Rand, but she's the only one who hasn't slept with him yet, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. And Aviendha and Rand, I think, were learning a lot. Like, obviously, this was when Rand was learning about the Aiel, and there was a lot of his growth dynamic, and both of them, their growth dynamic with their relationship with the time. And they spent a lot of time together, so I think that's probably why also I was like, yeah, this is the relationship that makes sense. Now him and Min have spent a ton of time together, and I'm like, this makes sense to me. This one makes a lot of sense to me. But I do think we're going to get some Rand and Elaine time pretty soon.
Pretty soon.
Pretty soon. Anywho, I think that was Scatterbrained, and...
Oh, it was good.
It's, again, I go back to my beginning of, like, a lot happened in this book, and nothing happened in this book.
Yes.
It felt like a lot of... There are a few big moments, but it felt very much of, like, okay, we're moving... Like, this is very much the, like, travel by map. Like, or, you know, like, we're moving along, we're journeying towards the next big moment. So I'll be intrigued to see how the next book goes.
Great. Yeah. So what do you want to rate this out of?
We did Bowl of Winds last time.
I know, I was going to say, Bowl of Winds would be good, but no.
Have we done Kalendor before?
I don't know that we have, but I think that it would be appropriate even if we have.
Yeah, because he screws everything up.
Yes, he does.
With his sword of ice.
Yes, he does.
Flame, whatever
Sort of light.
Sort of light, thank you.
Yes, I think Kalendor would be appropriate. So
Kalendor.
if we've done that before, sorry, I don't remember currently, but we're going to do that again.
Out of Kalendor's 5, how many would you give it?
You go first.
I had to go first in their last video. I'm scared. Okay, fine. I'll tell you, the beginning of this book, my rating was completely different. The middle of this book, my rating was completely different. The end of this book, I had a hard time. Because at the beginning of the book, I was like, yeah, okay, pretty excited, but medium. Middle of the book, I was like, this is so boring. I hate this so much. And then the end of the book, I was like, oh!
I hate this so much.
That's dramatic, but kind of. The end of the book, I was very excited, and so I was like, okay, I have to think about my overall feeling, and I think I'd probably give this a 3.5.
Yeah.
I think mainly for pacing's sake and for, because I had such an up and down journey with it. Because otherwise, I think at the end of the book, I was like, oh, 4, obsessed, love my friends, this is great. Middle of the book, I was like, 2, I'm so bored. So I think a 3.5 seems pretty right.
I would give it a 3.5 as well.
Yeah.
3.5 out of 5 Kalendors.
Out of Kalendors.
I would give it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are more than halfway done with this series.
And this is the first one that I have. I own this book. I own this actual book.
And we bought it at some used bookstore.
Yeah, at a used bookstore. I'm trying to now collect all the trade paperbacks because I like the size and I also like the very dramatic ending. One thing I love about Robert Jordan, he always tells you the last chapter. I'm like, oh, great. Thank you for that. And then it always says, the end of whatever book of the Wheel of Time focus. Let's do it. I'm not sure if the other versions of this book have that, but I'm obsessed with it. I also like the size.
I think they probably do, but it's still fun to have.
It's still fun, so we're working on collecting it one book at a time. Out of order entirely.
Yeah,
but,
just
know,
whenever
we see them.
But we are on our way. But yeah, that's everything from us. Thank you all so much for watching. Let us know how you feel about this one in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and
we'll see you on our next adventure.